song. But we wanted to tell everybody that we have a new YouTube channel, and we need you to subscribe to the new channel because we're not uploading or streaming on the old channel anymore. It's still the Voice of Stockton.
It's going to be fresh, brand new.
New content.
Great content.
Yeah.
Only, exclusively, on KXVS.
Yes, if you and on this video will be a link in the description where you can click it, but if you want to type it in, we made it real easy for you. You know bit.ly, the short link, bit.ly, so you can type bit.ly/subscribe_KXVS_YouTube. So bit.ly/subscribe_KXVS_YouTube. That's easy enough, right, Donovan? Donovan is the silent minority.
Speechless.
I'm trying to get my accent right. Hold on. I'm just throwing over it in my head. Let me start. Hold on. Yeah, hold on. How to do it? All right, I don't know about you guys, but I'm going to go subscribe to this new channel. It sounds interesting.
Yeah.
Yo, what's different about this channel than the last one?
Well,
what's changed?
Well, we're making some changes. We're always doing something new, but this is something that we had to do this, and we've had to do this for a while. So this new channel, it's really not much different, except the channel will be different. So all our new content is going on the channel, and we're going to migrate all our videos over to that channel as well, and we won't be using the old channel. So if you're waiting on that channel, you'll be missing it. So please do subscribe to our new channel, and it's real easy. Follow us on Facebook, thevoiceofstockton.org. You can find us everywhere. Keep watching us on our live streams, but that's it. We just wanted to break in and tell you that.
And let's make Stockton better together.
That's right. Make Stockton better together. All right. So, you know what? Let's start this track over because this is the best bomb song. And thank you for tuning in. Appreciate you. KXVS, the Voice of Stockton, with Donovan and Mr. Details, Dustin Breakwell. This is Governor Don signing off.
This is Barbara Berrigan Perea with Delta Flows, a radio show by the Voice of Stockton and Restore the Delta. This is the weekly radio show where we discuss everything Delta related: the environment, water management, water quality, farming, history and culture, public events, recreation, Delta food, and the arts. Tune into Delta Flows on KXVS, the Voice of Stockton, streaming live on Facebook and YouTube at KXVS Radio.
The views and opinions expressed in the following program do not necessarily reflect those of KXVS, the Voice of Stockton, or its parents, affiliates, management, and staff.
This is Timothy Hawley, and I am the Voice of Stockton.
And welcome to Connections, Peace and Justice Radio. And here's your host, Bruce Judici.
Good evening, and tonight we're going to be talking birds. We're here with Jim Roweth, who has been with the Audubon Society for the last 20, 25, 30 years, and has taken leadership positions in this stuff. And to me, to most of us, birds are just fascinating creatures. I mean, it's amazing that anything, that heavy can fly, especially when you take a look at between condors and hawks down to hummingbirds. They're just fascinating creatures. And so we're going to talk about the different aspects of the birds in our valley here. And there's a lot to talk about because this is the neat thing about the San Joaquin Valley is there is just such a diversity, and the birds that fly through here are just many and different, and sometimes rare and sometimes pretty common. But anyway, we can just get right into it. So, Jim, what got you into being interested in birds?
Well, I grew up in northern Missouri, and so I was always aware of the birds around as a kid. A lot of species that we don't have here in California. The cardinals.
Yeah, the cardinals.
People go from California go nuts when they go back east and they see the first cardinal.
Yeah,
it was an everyday event, for me as a kid.
That's great.
And blue jays and red-headed woodpeckers and so forth. And so, like I say, I was always aware of the birds around me. I lived on the East Coast for a while and lived in Europe, in Spain for a year as an undergraduate. And then I moved to California in 1982, and I became more involved with birds. Joined the Audubon Society, which I hadn't done before.
So did you land here in Stockton?
Yes,
in 82?
yes,
Okay.
yeah. And like I say, I joined the Audubon Society and started going to meetings and going to field trips and learning more about the local birds. And it's just been an adventure ever since then.
Great. What are California birds more interesting? Are they more colorful, or how are they different from the different places you've been? I mean, like Europe and the East Coast and the Midwest.
Well, they're different.
Yes.
I'm not going to say they're better or they're worse, but they're different. We certainly have a greater variety of species here in California because we have a greater variety of habitats.
Okay.
And one thing you learn about birding very early on is it's a lot like real estate. Location, location, location.
Yeah.
Where you are, your location is going to determine what you're going to see.
Right.
What you are going to see on the coast is not the same as what you're going to see here in the Central Valley or what you're going to see up in the Sierras.
Or in the Redwoods. Right.
Or the redwoods,
or in the desert,
or on the banks of the Mississippi River.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, and so back east, I mean, there's Baltimore Orioles. And,
yes,
and there's colorful birds back there. Are there the same sorts of birds like where we see finches here and warblers and titmice?
Yes,
and that sort of thing?
yes, but for the most part, there's not as much variety. The warblers is a big exception. Here in California, we only have about 8 species of regularly occurring warblers. Back east, on a good day in the spring, you can see, 24, 30 species of warblers,
Wow.
And that's just not possible here.
Yeah.
But with finches, we have a greater variety of finches here than you have back in the Midwest. Midwest, you have house finches and American goldfinches. Well, we've got 3 species of goldfinches here in California.
Wow.
So,
and in Europe?
Well, I haven't done as much. I didn't bird at all when I was a student there.
In Spain, right?
That's right. Yeah. But I have been back a couple times since then and done some birding there.
Storks and cuckoos.
Storks and cuckoos, exactly. Birds from fairy tales that we learned long ago.
Right.
The warblers that they have there are old world warblers are an entirely different family from the new world warblers that we have here in the Americas. The old world warblers are much drabber and much less exciting than the warblers we have here in the New World.
So do all these birds, do they all, in California, do they all migrate or do they all sort of hang around here? I mean, are you always going to see what sort of birds are you going to see all the way through the year, and which ones are you only going to see in certain times of the year?
Well, we definitely have species that are here 12 months a year. Whether it's the same individual that's hanging around 12 months a year is another story. It could be that many of the ones that we have here go farther south, and the ones that we have during the winter when our guys are south are coming down from British Columbia and so forth.
Okay. Well, yeah, because we have Canada geese for one thing.
Well, now they're resident.
And, some of them hang around.
For the most part, yeah.
Yeah, you hear them flying around, and it's sort of like you feel like it's the change in the seasons when you hear them sort of flying around, but they might just be flying up to Tahoe and then coming back down here to Stockton.
Right. When I was growing up back in the 60s and 70s, it used to be an annual thing, to hear the Canada geese flying over in the fall. Yeah. But with the advent of more parks and golf courses and so forth, a lot of Canada geese have found they don't need to travel that distance. They can just hang around locally, and so they don't migrate as much as they used to.
So they don't necessarily need to have that cold.
Well, that's right. That's right. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So when we're looking at our local environment here, in Stockton in particular, in the wetlands that we have here. Right now, here it is just beginning of March. And so what sort of birds would we be seeing out in the marshes right now?
Well, a lot of the birds that have been here all winter are getting ready to take off. A lot of them are still around. The sandhill cranes, most people know about the sandhill cranes.
Right, yeah, pretty rare. I mean, those don't, back east they don't have.
There are populations of sandhill cranes, not the huge numbers that we get here in the Central Valley, with the exception of the Platte River Valley in Nebraska. They get huge numbers of sandhill cranes going through the central United States.
So what's remarkable about them is the size, or just the distance they migrate, or
different subspecies of cranes migrate a different distance. There are some that nest up in northeastern California.
Okay.
So they don't migrate very far.
Okay. Oh.
And then there are others that migrate.
Tule Lake or something? Or?
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah. There are others that migrate here from Alaska. Okay. So considerably further.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
And so they're here now. Some are here now.
Some are here now, but
getting ready to go.
Generally, they're pretty much out of here by the end of February.
Okay.
I was out at Cosumnes Preserve just a couple of days ago, and we did have some going over, going north. Okay, so probably coming up from Merced and Fresno and those areas. I personally haven't been out on Woodbridge Road, which is the traditional place for us locally to look for sandhill cranes. I've been out of the country for the last few weeks.
Okay.
So,
and the sandhill, there's a sandhill crane festival in December or November.
It's normally the first weekend in November.
November.
Now I could be wrong. Maybe the second weekend, but it's a couple weekends before Thanksgiving.
And that's when they arrive.
No, they start arriving in September. I mean, I've seen them as early as the 10th of September out on Woodbridge Road.
Okay.
But that's when they just start filtering in. By October, they're here in full force.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Do they nest here or no?
No, they're strictly here for the winter.
Okay. Okay. Really good. So there's a sort of, and we can talk about all sorts of different habitat. Well, one of the things that's sort of I guess controversial right now is Swenson Park, and I guess just golf courses in general.
Right.
Are golf courses a good place for birds, or is it a place where they're exposed to toxins, or?
Well, yeah, I know there's been some controversy over that over the past years, but a golf course is certainly a better place for birds than
industrial park.
An industrial park, sure. And we really the birding community really hasn't had a whole lot of access to golf course because we go there to look at birds, not to play golf. But certainly, like in the example of Swainson's Park, that's a place where Swainson's hawks nest here locally in the large deodar cedars and evergreen trees that are there in the golf course. Okay. There's a little riparian strip along the slough there on the north side.
Riparian being where like a stream is or a river?
Riparian is riverside, or stream side. There
along the north side, where the I guess where the school is.
Across the street from the school. Okay. Yeah, I don't remember the name of the slough that goes through there. Yeah. But that has had sometimes gets good birds there in migration. You can get some good warblers there. You can get some good orioles and grosbeaks and so forth in there. There was a couple of years ago, well, I guess it's been more like 10, 15 years ago, that we had an invasion of some winters you get invasions of different populations of birds. And there was an invasion of red crossbills, which you don't normally see in here in the Central Valley. But there was a flock of 10 or 12 of them flying around there at the golf course.
How does that happen? How, did they just get lost or something?
Well, the food supply where they normally would winter fails or is inadequate or whatever, so they wander around in search of food.
Okay.
So
this is Peace and Justice Connections. I'm here with Jim Roweth. We're talking about birds and all things bird from a person who's been a member of the Audubon Society for the past 20, 25 years, local Audubon Society. So the Audubon Society here is a pretty active group. I mean, I see a lot of flyers and information about outings and things like that. What's going on with the Audubon Society?
Well, we do have a number of field trips that we offer. You do not have to be a member of the Audubon Society to participate in our activities. We have a regular monthly field trip the first Saturday of every month 8 o'clock in the morning.
That's just coming up. I mean, well,
it was just a couple days ago.
Oh, was it?
Yeah,
oh, that's right. Yeah, I'm sorry.
We just missed it.
Yeah, okay.
But we've been doing that for the last 10, 15 years.
Where do you meet?
Lodi Lake along Laurel Avenue, which is the little dead-end street on the north, the south east corner of the park.
And you welcome newcomers? And
Absolutely.
Is there any cost?
No.
Okay.
All of our activities are free.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah, and the whole idea is to introduce more people to nature and to birds, because the more people know about what's around them, the more likely they are to want to do something to protect it. If it's always amazing to me how surprised people are their first time birding, at the different birds that are out there. I know they're there, but this person, is totally blown away by the variety and the color and the details of the plumage and so forth.
Yeah, well, it's just remarkable. I mean, there are so many, and they're just beautiful. I mean, and they are large and small. Some are seed eaters, some are black seed eaters, and so when you have let's finish with the Lodi Lake thing. So is that a good place for people to see birds even when it's not a first Saturday? I mean, can they just come? Is Lodi Lake is like there's cover for different types of birds and things?
Lodi Lake is traditionally the best place in the county for people to find birds, where a lot of the rare birds have been found in the county.
Okay.
It's not as wild and as unmanicured as it used to be. Okay, so it may not be as good as it used to be, but still it's a very good place to look for neotropical migrants when they move through in the fall and in the spring.
Well, what sort of bird would that be, a neotropical migrant?
Well, like warblers. Wilson's warbler, black-throated gray warbler, Townsend's warbler, yellow warbler, Nashville warbler.
So where are they coming from when they're, neotropical? So you're saying like they come from Mexico? Or
neotropical, that just means new tropics. So
Okay.
neotropics, the new world tropics.
Okay.
So coming from Mexico, Central America, Northern South America.
Okay.
Right.
And the flyway where they come like say along the Pacific coast. I mean, they go Baja. They come up through, and they land here, or they just keep on going up to Oregon and Washington.
Well, some of them stop here, and some of them keep on going.
Okay.
The Pacific Flyway, goes up the state of California, and that's basically the path that they follow.
Okay.
So,
and then there's like different places that they've stopped over.
Oh, sure.
Over. I mean, so there's rice fields, and
Sure.
there's other.
depending upon what their needs are,
Yeah.
for food and shelter.
Yeah,
Sure.
because I remember when I was, I don't know, it was a long time ago, like 30 years ago, 40 years ago. I did a study of selenium in San Luis.
That was a huge problem. That was a huge problem.
Yeah.
Yes.
It was a problem of concentrated irrigation water
Right.
that was leaching out selenium and other minerals into the groundwater basin or into the water basin. And there was this drain that was supposed to send the water out to the bay, but once my understanding was once the Bay Area folks were not, they weren't. When they saw that the drainage was kind of toxic, that they didn't really want to have that happen. So
Right.
they stopped the drainage, and it ended up in Kesterson Wildlife
Right.
Refuge.
Right.
And when the water built up there, the birds who were wintering there or were living there were ending up getting all sorts of tumors.
Right.
Yeah.
There are all sorts of deformities happening.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah, and so so the thing is that right now there's a Pacific Flyway that goes up and down up and down California, but I'm thinking that maybe the water supply or the wetlands that they have to rely on aren't as
Well, they're certainly
Orange
diminished
frequent.
from what they were 100 years ago. When before the valley was basically paved over. There the remaining habitat is much reduced from what it used to be, and it's being reduced even further.
Yeah.
With all the demands that we make on water. I guess they're not renewing the Salton Sea any further, and there's a huge population of birds dependent upon the Salton Sea.
Right.
And now where are they going to go?
Right. And then I'm sure, I don't know about the Owens Valley or other
Sure.
areas in the Sierra that were drained to feed Los Angeles, and now we're talking about. Right now, a new concern is the Twin Tunnels that we're talking about, sort of in the same way, extracting all this water from areas that that birds need to.
Right. That's just going to further, compromise their existing habitat.
Yeah. So a lot of people are concerned about the water for a lot of reasons, about the extraction and the agricultural loss and the saltwater intrusion and all that sort of thing for the Twin Tunnels. But another major concern is the lack of habitat for birds. So anyway, so you have outings at Lodi Lake
every monthly basis. First
Saturday
of every month.
What time?
At 8 o'clock.
8 in the morning.
It's
and the sun's getting up early.
It's 8 o'clock in December. It's 8 o'clock in July.
Yeah,
so
it's just the sun's a little bit higher in the
just to make
sky.
it easier for people, to remember. Oh yeah, there's a field trip this morning.
Yeah, very nice. Yeah. How long are the field trips?
It depends on the birds.
Okay. Oh, okay.
If there are a lot of birds to be seen, then it can be a couple of hours. If there are not so many birds, maybe an hour. But I would generally say most of them last between 2 and 3 hours. But if the birds are really good, it could be longer than that.
What about other places to visit? I remember we lived in Stockton a while back, and Oak Grove Park was a nice place to go. But now there's a lot more development around Oak Grove than back then.
Well, back in 2000, 2001 or so, the Audubon Society came together and put together a guide to places to birdwatch in San Joaquin County. And that was a real effort. It took 3 years for us to pull that thing together, but we were very happy with the product. It had about 3 dozen different locations locally of places to go to look for birds, what birds to expect, and in what seasons, and tips on birding the location and so forth. We found that book quickly got out of date, and so we've been trying to get our act together to get that revised. And we're currently working on revising that now. We hope to have the final product available by the end of this year.
Wow! So updated for local, for like San Joaquin County, or just for regional?
Places like you said, Oak Grove Park, Lodi Lake, the Stockton Rural Cemetery, the Stockton or the Lodi Water Treatment Plant.
Wait, so Stockton Rural Cemetery. Where's that?
Right.
Is that down by the hospital?
Yes. Okay. There's the two cemeteries behind St. Joe's Hospital. The first one, which abuts Harding, is the Catholic Cemetery, and it doesn't have. It's not as interesting bird-wise as the old rural cemetery further north along Cemetery Lane. The old rural cemetery has a lot more vegetation, older trees, and so forth. So it's more interesting for the birds, and there's more to see there. And if the birding is slow, you can always read local history.
Sure, definitely.
Yeah.
And so and they were saying also at the water treatment plant out on
sewage ponds are wonderful places for birds.
On Highway 4, I guess, going out towards Brentwood or something.
That the Stockton sewage plant used to be a premier location, but access has been an issue.
Oh, and you can't park there, or is it dangerous? Or?
It's not dangerous. Well, as far as birders are concerned, it's not dangerous, but just getting access to those ponds is very problematic. problematic. We haven't had regular access for several years
Liability, is that the concern? They don't want you to...
You know, a lot of things
wander
changed with 9/11.
Oh, really? Oh, yeah, I bet.
You know,
Yeah.
they look at us, they think that we're carrying,
Sure.
chemicals with our binoculars. We're going to poison the water supply or
Indeed.
something
Yeah,
like
that's
that. Excuse
right.
me,
Yeah,
something
you
like
got
that.
to pass some sort of security test to go look for some birds.
So, but we do have pretty good access at the Lodi sewage ponds. So,
Okay, and where's and that's right on I-5, right?
right off I-5.
The
right.
White Slough or something? Or
What it's called, the name is the White Slough Water Control Plant or Water Treatment Plant.
Okay.
But most of us just call it Lodi sewage ponds.
Okay.
So
And then there's Cosumnes.
there's Cosumnes Preserve. That's actually outside the county.
Okay.
There are a lot of other locations within the county. There's the McCullamy Fish Hatchery up by Clements.
What about Durham Ferry? Is that a place that people go?
It used to be, but I mean, when was the last time you were at Durham Ferry?
I have not.
I mean, that place closed 20 years ago.
But you can't just park on the outside and walk in?
Well, I suppose you could.
Because it's a state park. I mean, there's a stream the San Joaquin River goes through there, right?
Yeah, but this is not a state park any longer. I think it's isn't it part of the or
I don't know what it is. Yeah,
the school system for problem kids.
Oh yeah, right. Yeah,
what do you call that?
continuation school.
Yeah.
Okay.
They've got a campus down there. In the Ripon area, there's an area called Oak Grove Park down there. Most people don't know about it. It's adjacent to the water treatment plant down there in Ripon, and that's another great place to go. The Tracy Water Treatment Plant is another great sewage ponds.
Wow.
Okay.
All the sewage ponds.
Yeah. Oh,
just
yeah.
a great hangout.
Birders know all about sewage ponds.
Oh, yeah.
Because, birds are not turned off by the smell like that.
Yeah.
They're attracted to whatever is attracted to that, to the bugs and so forth.
Right.
Yeah.
So
and gulls and terns and ducks and geese and sandpipers and you name it. They all show up at sewage ponds.
Wow. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So what's probably the most common bird around here, and what is probably the most rare bird you've seen?
Well, there are a lot of really common birds around here. I think everybody...
Like sparrows, swallows?
Well, I was going to say jays.
Jays,
the scrub jays. Everybody has the scrub jays in their yard.
Yeah.
They are jays, and they are blue, but they are not blue jays.
Steller's jays, or
Steller's jays look more like a real, honest-to-goodness blue jay because they have that crest like the ones back east.
Up in the mountains. Maybe.
Right. But the jays that we have here in the Central Valley are scrub jays.
Okay.
Yeah. And like I say, everybody probably has them in their yard, along with house finches.
Yeah.
Those are the little streaky finches. The
Yeah.
males are
Red.
pink or red.
Yeah.
The females are drab brown.
Okay. Some yellow ones, maybe.
There are goldfinches that come through people's yards as well. You don't necessarily have to have a bird feeder to attract birds to your yard. You can have a water feature. Pan of water for them to bathe in.
Yeah, especially in the summer, I bet.
Absolutely, because everybody's looking for water at that time. You can plant certain native species.
With berries and stuff?
With berries, food and...
just cover, I guess.
Cover, exactly. Cover and food is what they're looking for.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So, because where we live up in the... up in Valley Springs, and we get a variety. But we mostly put out, sunflower seeds, because that's just the easiest. And sometimes we just put out the other bird seed, and they just don't seem to like that stuff so much. The little millet and the sorghum or whatever it is.
Right. The black Niger seeds are by far the most popular.
Oh my gosh, yeah. I mean, man, and then we have doves and
yeah. That doves are an interesting thing. In the last 10 years or so, we've had a big incursion of Eurasian collared doves into California. Eurasian, tells you that they're not native to North America.
So they were like released here? Were they like homing, or they like?
They were introduced. They were introduced into the Bahamas, and the Bahamas are just a hop, skip, and a jump from
For a
Florida.
bird.
Yeah. So they flew from the Bahamas to Florida, and from Florida they have gone all the way to Alaska.
Oh my gosh.
Yes.
Well,
yes.
doves are just such pleasant birds. You know, they have a nice sound and everything, but they're
Right.
an invasive species.
Eurasian collared dove is an invasive species. Our native species, the mourning dove, which is a little bit smaller, got a long pointed tail, I think has a prettier voice. And it's also common in yards. You know, that's our native dove.
Can they interbreed?
No,
No.
they're separate species. You know, size-wise, mourning dove, like I say, is smaller than the Eurasian collared dove. Yeah, yeah.
So, what is the most persistent and I wouldn't say what's the worst bird that we have in terms of a feral bird that is pushing out or that's a problem.
You know,
Pushing out other
the introduced
species.
birds that we have here are, like I said, the Eurasian collared dove. We've got the rock dove, which was introduced by European pioneers back in the 1600s when they first came on the East Coast, and they come all the way across North America, down into South America, and so forth. But they were brought over as a food source.
Okay.
You know.
Okay.
And then you've got the English house, or the house sparrow, which was introduced back into New York back in the 1870s and has come all the way out here and down into Central America as well.
Are pigeons?
Pigeons are rock
native?
doves.
Oh, they. Oh, okay.
Okay, so when I talk about rock
A rock
doves,
dove is a pigeon.
rock dove or rock pigeon, city pigeon,
Okay.
feral dove, pigeon, whatever, city pigeon, those are all the same thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And these city pigeons come in a variety of different colors,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
and they've been bred for different features, and so some of them have odd shapes and so forth and so on. But they are not native.
They're not native.
Yeah, right, right. The other not native species that we have here is the European starling. I think everybody is
starling,
familiar
yeah.
with the starling.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
they're
everywhere.
That bird was introduced back into Central Park again late in the 1800s.
Yeah.
Somebody wanted to introduce all of the birds that were mentioned by Shakespeare into Central Park. And starling was successful. Most of them failed, but that one took off like wildfire.
Yeah, everywhere.
Yes, exactly. All across North America and down into Mexico. Yeah. And they're very aggressive. They're cavity nesters, like woodpeckers are cavity nesters. Bluebirds are cavity nesters. There are other species as well, but the starlings are more aggressive, and a lot of times outcompete them for the nesting cavities that they need. And so if you go to the Stockton Rural Cemetery, there are a lot of dead trees there with cavities drilled by woodpeckers and so forth. There's a heck of a lot of starlings there. Okay, there are woodpeckers, but the starlings definitely outnumber them these days.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, because I think we found when we find a bird that needs help, sometimes we'll nurse it back, but sometimes once it gets to a certain age, we want to take it to like a wildlife place or something.
Right.
And there was a place down in Oakdale, I think it was,
Right.
and they would not take a starling.
Right.
They said,
Right.
we will not take these birds
Right.
because they don't want to nurse them back and then release them out, because I guess they're just so persistent. And
well, there are millions and millions and millions,
Yes.
if not billions of them. You know.
yeah.
So
So and speaking of a rehab thing, my daughter also this last couple of years really, she's worked at there's a tri-county place up in I guess it's located outside of Jackson, and they do rehab for different types of different birds like
is it just birds?
it's just it's pretty much just birds.
Okay.
Yeah, so they do owls and they do raptors and people do people take home different types of birds that they come across. So and I think Mickey Grove has done that, right? If what happens if you find a bird that is injured on the side of the road or something? What can you do with a bird like that? What would you do with a bird like that?
I know as a member of the Audubon Society, I've gotten many calls like that over the past. What we encourage people to do is to check our website, San Joaquin Audubon, I think it's .org.
Okay.
And
just Google it and you'll find yours.
Well, and there is a link on what to do if you find a baby bird, what to do if you find an injured bird.
Right.
Okay.
Right. If it falls out of the nest or something.
Right.
Or if it looks like it's been mauled a little bit. Or
Right. If it's just fallen out of the nest and is not injured, if you can get it back in the nest, that's the best thing to do. You certainly, if you can't get it back in the nest, you know, kind of make sure the dogs and the cats and the kids stay away from it, and mom and dad should come down to continue feeding it.
Yeah, because it's sort of, well, it's not almost that time, but it is March, and you know there's going to be
it'll be here soon.
It'll be
Absolutely.
very soon. Yeah, there'll be baby birds and stuff out there, and yeah, pretty much every year we have, you know, probably a couple birds that we, you know, have syringe feeding and that sort of thing.
Right.
You know, I can't say that, you know, well, let's say this Peace and Justice Connections. I'm here with Jim Roweth. We're talking about birds in San Joaquin County. And, you know, baby animals are really cute, but, you know, there's some baby chicks are very cute, but sometimes baby birds are just not the most attractive thing until they become, you know, maybe the first couple of weeks or something.
Especially if you're hand raising them, because you tend to get all that that mess around their mouth. You know?
And there's different types of replacer. You know, like for bug eating birds, they eat one thing, and if they're seed birds, they eat something else.
Right.
So, what is your take on what is Audubon's take on feral cats? Because we've had a couple outdoor cats, but we don't have any longer. But once in a while, those cats would leave a bird on our porch, and you know. I know that there's this ongoing discussion about, you know, feral cats as opposed to birds, but I'm sure Audubon Society would come down on side of birds. But what can we do about that?
Well, killing birds is a natural thing for an outdoor cat. I mean, finding food, and even if it's a well-fed cat. It's
even a well-fed cat. I mean, our cats
chase
are well-fed.
Chase something that's moving, you know, and kill it.
Yeah, like
know?
a mouse or a gopher or a bird.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I don't know if it's an official policy or not, but I believe Audubon, you know, encourages you to keep your cats indoors. You know, there is a campaign, Cats Indoors.
And there's other reasons to keep your cats indoors.
Oh,
I mean,
sure.
Abscesses and you know, they can get all sorts of fights and things. And
get hit by a car.
Yeah, that's right.
Right.
Exactly.
And I have to confess, you know, I have 2 indoor cats, but I do have 1 outdoor cat.
Yeah.
So
we have
I don't feed birds because I don't want to attract big numbers of birds to my yard because of that. But I do have a bird bath.
Okay.
But I have it out in the middle of the yard, you know, where any bird should be able to see a cat approaching.
Yeah.
You know, the bath.
Yeah, and I've seen some people who bell their cats so that, you know, if the birds hear the bell, they're gone.
But some cats, you know, learn
some cats are pretty smart
to outsmart that bell.
Yeah,
yes.
they are.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So you know, when we're going to the coast, you know, we'll see all sorts of different birds.
Right.
So is there the same sort of? I'm sure you go to the coast. I'm sure you go to the coast and go
Absolutely.
to the tide pools or sand. You know.
Well, I used to enjoy tide pools, but once I discovered birds, I'm more interested in looking at the birds.
Yeah.
I don't look at the sea urchins and the anemones like I used to.
Yeah, but there's like sandpipers and that sort of thing. And,
absolutely.
And so are those birds? Are they as seasonal as here? I mean, do they pretty much stay here all the time, or are they going up and down?
No, most of them will breed up in the Arctic.
Oh, really?
Yeah, okay. And then they will migrate south. And a lot of the sandpiper species that we see here in California, you can also see in South America, different times of the year.
That's amazing.
And even on the other side of the Pacific. I mean, a few years ago, I was in New Zealand and saw a lot of the same shorebird species that we have here.
Wow.
A lot of different ones too.
Yeah.
But some of the same ones. Yeah.
Wow. You know, because you know, I think a lot of people just sort of take birds for granted. I mean, you know, they just, you know, there's a bunch of birds just flying over. But you know, for one thing, they're very diverse, and there's very many different types. And you know, there was you know, the book Silent Spring was discussing what happens when birds aren't in our lives anymore, or they're not in our neighborhoods anymore. And
well, that was one striking thing about when I was in New Zealand. The forests there are much quieter than the forests here because of the introduced mammals. New Zealand doesn't have any native mammals.
Okay.
And so the Europeans came and they brought their pigs and their goats and the dogs and the cats. A lot of these birds had no knowledge with what these mammals were.
Had no defense.
You're right. No fear.
Yeah.
And so their numbers really reduced dramatically.
Well, the dodo was like that was a bird that was a tropical bird, right?
Well, yeah, that was from the island of Reunion off the coast of Madagascar.
I guess that was just for eggs, or that was more of a fashion thing. Maybe
the dodo.
Yeah.
Well, the Dutch sailors that came in needed provision for food, for the boats.
They just ate them all.
Well, it was easy pickings, So
sure, like passenger pigeon here. Yeah. Birds that have gone extinct. They're gone. But so the New Zealand, because here when you come to our forests. And you just listen. You just have to sort of slow down and just be quiet. And you'll hear birds. I mean, I didn't see any animals out there. Well, there were so many birds. There's all and when you go up to the Sierra, you'll see many different types of birds.
Exactly.
So with respect to the Sierra, we're coming out of a drought. Well, we might be going back into a drought.
Let's hope not.
Yeah, but what it looks like is that we have we have a lot of bark beetle infestation up in the woods, and there's also in Calaveras County there's a lot of clear cutting, and a lot of folks are saying that the spotted owl was a reason why a lot of timber jobs have disappeared. Has there been I don't know if you know much about what's going on up in the Sierra about birds disappearing, or if that habitat, if the clear cutting and if the bark beetle is having an impact on the bird populations up in the foothills.
It's not equal across the board. After the first few years, like after a burn has gone through, you got all these dead trees up there, dying trees, and the bark beetles come in and so forth. There are certain species that thrive in that environment.
They eat beetles, right?
Exactly. And after the forest has recovered more, the beetles are gone, and these species of birds move on some other place. Like blackback woodpeckers are a good example up in the Sierras after a fire.
They're good with the beetles and stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Because you don't hear much about. Spotted owl was I don't know, 20 years ago.
Right.
It was the big thing.
Right.
That particularly up in the redwoods, up by Humboldt and stuff.
Right.
That people were concerned that they were taking away people's livelihoods, and that why are we leaving these trees to stand for these birds? But it wasn't so much the birds. It was the habitat that we're preserving that allows the birds to live there.
Right.
And so, when we're preserving something for an endangered species, the species is just sort of pretty much the indicator.
Exactly. Birds are incredible indicator species. And when you preserve the habitat for one species, you're preserving it for all the other ancillary species as well.
Right. Right. Yeah. So you have the weak link of the spotted owl, and then it allows this place for a martin, or for different weasels, or any sorts of even fish. If you have clear running streams and that sort of thing, so that the streams aren't muddied up.
And a lot of people don't make that connection, but the more you stop and study nature and be in nature, the more those relationships you become aware of.
So every first Saturday of the month. At Lodi Lake.
At what time?
8:00.
That's right.
Whether it's July or December.
That's right. Now, there are occasions when, like the city of Lodi has something going on that Saturday. like sometimes around the 4th of July.
Okay.
We have to postpone it or cancel it or whatever.
Okay. Okay.
But generally speaking,
and so you guys have monthly meetings as well, right?
we do. We meet at Central Methodist Church across from UOP.
3700
37,
Pacific?
yeah, North Pacific, and
In the fellowship hall?
in the fellowship hall,
Okay.
and we meet from.
Oh no, is it the fireside room? Is it the fireside room? Is it the one with the like a fireplace and stuff?
It's just the.
It's a small room. It's not.
It does
the
have
big
a
tall
fire.
room, right?
It does have a
Yeah,
fireplace,
okay,
so it is the
okay.
fireplace room.
Yeah.
Stop and
the
think.
fireside room.
I've
Yeah.
never seen a fire going
the,
on
the
there.
fellowship
so-
hall is where we have the peaceful holiday fair.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
But we meet from September through December, and then we don't have a meeting in January. And then February through April.
And when is that?
7:30 in the evening, the second Tuesday
Second Tuesday of the month.
of the month. Right.
So there's still one coming.
There's one coming up
tomorrow
on.
night? No.
No, the
A week
15th. The
from- okay,
15th, I believe it
Okay,
is.
great.
No, wait, the board meeting is on the 15th, so I guess that would be.
I don't know.
I don't have a calendar here.
I don't know. It's the
Yeah.
6th, 13th.
13th. The 13th.
Yeah.
And I don't know off the top of my head what the topic is going to
Oh,
be.
you have a topic? Oh, you
Yes,
you have a program?
Yes. Last month I know it was the birds of Trinidad and Tobago.
Wow.
And it's not always strictly about birds. Sometimes. Oh, I know what it's going to be about. It's going to be about planting a bird-friendly yard.
Oh, how nice.
Yeah.
Good timing.
Susan Snyder and Carrie Reed and James Rexroth are going to be talking about
Oh, that sounds great.
plants that you can buy locally
Uh-huh.
to improve the habitat for birds in your yard.
Wow.
Low water
That's great.
plants.
And that's in May. I mean, that's in March.
That's just next week,
March
yeah.
13th,
Yeah.
Tuesday night. It's
Yes.
7:30.
7:30.
7:30 at 3700 Pacific Avenue
Exactly.
at the Central Methodist Church Fireside Room.
Everybody is welcome.
That sounds great.
You know,
I mean, that sounds like it's some really nice tip. And no cost. I mean, it's
none whatsoever.
Very
None
nice.
whatsoever. I
Very
mean,
good.
we
Probably
do
meet the nicest people.
Well, I would think so.
I would
yeah.
think so.
I'm not going to be there that night because I'm going to be in Missouri at that time.
Oh,
but,
okay.
yeah.
Checking out some Cardinals. Yeah.
Well, family issue going on this next week. So, yeah.
Well, also I wanted to announce. Well, this is Peace and Justice Connections. We're talking with Jim Rowath about birds in San Joaquin County and beyond. And I just want to remind people that on April 22nd, we're going to be celebrating the Earth Day Festival out at Victory Park. From it's going to be an all-day thing. At 9 o'clock is going to be yoga. Is going to be starting, but we're going to have a March for Science from 10 to 11. And then from 11 to 4 is going to be when there's the entertainment on the showmobile, and all the booths will be out there.
San Joaquin Audubon is going to have a booth there.
Very nice. Yes, very good. And so you can meet Jim, and you can meet other folks from the Audubon Society and get connected and find, really get that first Saturday drilled into your head. And and I'm sure there'll be some interesting discussion about what sort of birds are around, and also there's some the controversial things. I think the tunnels are. I mean, this is a year of decision for the tunnels, and it's if they don't move further on this year, I don't know if they're going to go much further, because the big person who is pushing this is the governor, and this
seems
is
to be his legacy issue.
It is his big thing, and he's about the only person who really cares. I mean, who cares about it as much as he does. And he is a very skilled and talented politician, and he knows how to get things done. And this one, however, has been difficult because it is it's problematic. I mean, the whole tunnels issue is a problem.
Right. Now, I moved here to California about the time of
Peripheral
the peripheral canal time.
Right, 82.
Right when it was coming to a head.
That's right.
So, yeah.
Yeah, and then there was an initiative, I guess, and then it was shut down because primarily people saw that it was just a water grab by Southern Farms and LA to a certain extent. And even now, it does look like it's the Metropolitan Water District that is really, I mean, they're the ones who bought an island with the idea that they could possibly use that as a staging ground for either the dredgings for the tunnel, or just for the tunnel itself, and all the water rights that go along with the island.
Right.
And so it's just, and the thing is that it doesn't even have to go to feed sprawl in Los Angeles, because water is valuable here. I mean, the more scarce, the less there is of it, the more valuable it is. So even if they get the water rights for this water, it's going to be very valuable up and down the valley in terms of for farmers or for anybody. And so for the investment of, if the Metropolitan Water District wants to put a lot of money into making this thing happen, if they're going to be the private contractor that guarantees this water, they would be betting on more drought, and that the value of the water that's going through those tunnels is only going to go higher.
Right.
So it's a concern.
And we've got the example of the Owens Valley and Mono Lake.
Indeed.
So,
yeah.
sure.
And then maybe people don't know about that example, but they ought to just, if you ever have a chance to go up Highway 395 and go up to Bishop and Independence and Lone Pine, and just check out that Owens Lake that used to be there is just a salt dust bowl.
Right.
And
right. It's a real health hazard too.
On a windy day, I mean the salt that you breathe in is just nasty. And there's I don't know if you ever seen the movie Chinatown, but that movie Chinatown is an excellent movie about water rights in this. I mean, that's not so much about birds, but I mean, water is life, and especially for birds.
Well, not just birds.
Not just birds.
Yeah. Especially for life.
For life.
Any life.
Just in any life. Yeah. So anyway, what else would you want to finish up with to talk about what's happening?
Well, we keep talking about the Lodi Lake trip the first Saturday of every month. We do have many other field trips throughout the month. You can go to our website, SanJoaquinAudubon.org, and check out all the different activities. I believe there's also a Facebook page, San Joaquin Audubon Facebook page as well. And all of our field trips, like I have said before, are open to anyone free of charge. You don't have to be a member.
Well, and we were discussing earlier and was about the bird count. About the annual bird count.
Right.
So when does that happen, and what is that? What does that involve?
The Audubon Christmas bird count, started back in 1901, I believe.
Wow.
So it's been going on over 100 years. The first year there were about 24 different count circles, and only one in California, one in Pacific Grove. All the rest were back east. Yeah. But since that time, there are something like between 2,000 and 3,000 count circles throughout the Americas, not just the United States, also Canada and Mexico and Central America, even some counts down in South America.
So are these all Audubon chapters that do this, or can it be non-Audubon?
It doesn't have to be an Audubon chapter. It could be a local bird club, But here Audubon started it.
Okay.
Started the movement.
And here it's done by you guys.
By San Joaquin Audubon.
And you've been coordinating that.
Well, I've been coordinating the one in Stockton for the last, since the mid-1990s. And we actually sponsor two counts. There's the Stockton Christmas count, which is usually about a week or 10 days before Christmas Day. There's about a 15-day period during which the Christmas count can occur.
Okay.
It doesn't have to be on Christmas Day. Okay, so it's several days before and several days after Christmas Day. But we just call those Christmas
counts. Is it
counts.
A 24-hour thing?
It's a 24-hour thing if you choose to do so, okay? If you don't want to get it up at midnight and then stay awake until midnight, you can set your own hours.
Do you see a whole lot of birds at night?
No, obviously.
Maybe owls.
Well, and you're probably going to hear more owls than you're going to see.
Yeah.
And you don't necessarily hear any owls either, unless you go to the right place.
Right.
But we've been doing the Stockton count since 1967, I believe. This last year was our
40th?
No, 50th year.
50th. Wow.
Yeah. And we average anywhere from 140 to 150 or a little above species on that one day. This last year, you may not remember the day, but we had horrendous winds. We had gale force winds about 30 miles an hour most of the day. It was one of the most miserable days in the field we've had, so our count was down dramatically because of that. The next day, the weather was wonderful, but that day, the weather was horrible.
Now you could have chosen a different day, though, right?
Well, but you have to set a date because you've got all these people participating, making plans around this date.
Yeah.
So you plan the date and you set the date and you keep your fingers crossed that the weather's going to be decent.
Now, does everybody get together at a single place, or does everybody just decide, okay, on December 13th, everybody's going to look around their house and look for birds?
There is a count circle. There is a fixed circle. It was established back when the circle began back in 1967. The center point of the circle is the intersection for the Stockton count is the intersection of Highway 12 and I-5.
Okay. Flag City.
Flag City, exactly.
Right.
It's 7.5 miles in every direction from there.
Okay.
And that circle is divided into a number of different territories. And so there are different teams that cover different territories. Okay.
Did the same team cover the same territory every year?
We try to do it that way, but sometimes,
Mm-hmm.
quite frankly, you get bored of doing the same thing every year, and you're sometimes people want to change. But it's nice to have consistency, covering the same area with the same person year after year after year.
Because then if they counted 10 last year, chances are if they count 9 this year, I mean they use the same if it's consistent.
Right. And if there's a hard to find species within your area, if you've done that area before, you know where to go under what conditions to try to find that specific species on that date.
Okay. So why in the wintertime? Why not in the summertime? And so there's no bird count in the summer, right?
There's no official bird count during the summer. That's correct. I guess they decided to do it during the winter.
There are more birds?
But there's greater number of birds. You've got you don't have the breeding birds. We don't have our neotropical migrants. They're all down in the tropics. So our warblers and pretty songbirds and so forth are down there. But you have huge numbers of ducks and geese and swans and things like that.
Wow, yeah.
During the winter.
Yeah. And then you're talking about a backyard survey that happened over the President's Day weekend?
Right. There's, again, we just missed it. But President's Day weekend for the last 20 years or so, Cornell Lab of Ornithology has organized a great backyard bird count, encouraging people to just open their eyes and look at the birds in their yard or where they happen to be on those days, and to record the species that they see.
And how do they get that information? Do they send it to Cornell?
There's a website for the Great Backyard Bird Count, and you can go in there during that period and enter the birds that you saw.
Okay.
If you're interested in this year's results, you can go in to the Great Backyard Bird Count website
and see what birds were in your area.
Just type in Great Backyard Bird Count, and it'll ask you where you want to look, whether it's here or in Panama or whatever it is, you know, and then you can see what was reported in your local area.
And you're talking about something like iBird or something?
eBird.
eBird. And that's what this is?
Well, all of that data is fed, the backyard bird count is fed into eBird, which is an international database that was started by Cornell Lab and Audubon together about the early 2000s.
Okay.
And so it started out first just the Western Hemisphere, and then they expanded it to the entire globe about 10 years ago.
Cool.
And so if you're traveling overseas or down the street or wherever you happen to be, you can report the birds that you're observing on that website, and it becomes a part of a permanent international database.
Right.
You know, so 50 years from now, assuming they have the technology to look at our old technology, but they're always updating the current technology.
Sure.
You should be able to go in and see what was being seen in San Joaquin County in March of 2018. And see the changes between 50 years in the future and currently.
Yeah, we'll hope they have at least the same diversity that we have now. Well, we're just about we're just about up here. That hour went by pretty darn quickly.
Well, there's a lot to talk about.
There is a lot to talk about.
And we just barely scratched the surface.
Barely scratched the surface. But, this has been a great hour. Thanks so much, Jim.
Mm-hmm.
Jim Roweth from the San Joaquin Audubon Society. Thanks so much for your time. This has been Bruce Judici with Peace and Justice Connections. Have a nice evening, and happy birding.